From the moment of birth, humans are placed upon a massive orbit of others' expectations. It is a bondage wrapped in the most noble language of love, yet perhaps the most cruel form of confinement. Here stands a nameless wanderer. Upon his shoulders rests his mother's anxious gaze directed at him, and the heavy silence left by his father heading to the factory. You must study twice as hard as others, so that you won't suffer later in life. That benevolent tenderness, ironically, becomes a chain tightening around his neck. Trapped before a small desk in his room, he quietly sobs. If only my intellect had been sharper, could I have endured the weight of this suffocating expectation with ease? As tears blur his vision, the surrounding walls draw closer and closer. There is an ancient counter-thesis that the universe is cold and life is inherently meaningless. No matter how much humans long for goodness and establish laws, the nihilism lurking in the abyss of existence inevitably rears its head. The wanderer sits at a desk in the library, with his head bowed down. Beneath the grid patterns of the institution that measure him by others' standards, he realizes that he is infinitely small and powerless. Like the deep inner despair that Abraham Lincoln once confronted, the moment all the old values one built come crashing down, man finally stands on the lonely threshold of individuative, reflective faith. The familiar school bells and the meaningless laughter of peers merely drift past his ears, failing to melt his frozen heart. Utterly isolated, he witnesses the absolute demise of institutionalized beliefs. In the extreme boundary situation that Viktor Frankl faced, within the abyss of emptiness where all possessions and identities are dismantled, man is forced to ask, what is this suffering for? The wanderer guards his place in the library as the night deepens. He believed that remaining chained to his desk without rest was his sole salvation, yet only a piercing sense of fatigue strikes his mind. Confronting his own limitations that fall short of expectations, he confesses that he has erased his own existence to live out the desires of others. As he walks out alone between the dimly lit bookshelves, an absolute nihilism quietly settles upon his footsteps. The world offers him no answer, and only the bell announcing the closing hour scatters into the cold, indifferent air. Yet the Buddha taught that emptiness is not destruction, but a supreme blessing capable of containing a whole new universe. At the very place where the ego is fully dissolved and hits rock bottom, the nameless observer lifts his eyes to gaze at the world. Another guardian of wisdom, who has become his companion, speaks to him. Confronting vulnerability, that is the true beginning of study. If the universe grants no inherent meaning to me, it signifies that I have gained the absolute freedom to paint my own meaning upon this infinite canvas. The brutal counter-thesis of nihilism is utterly crushed at this point. The absence of meaning is not despair, but a pioneer's grand privilege to explore, and the very beginning of divine creation. What flows into that emptied heart is an unconditional compassion toward all broken existences like himself, agape. Like the massive love of solidarity that Martin Luther King once proclaimed, the wanderer returns home late at night and quietly watches his father binding old newspapers in the corner of the entrance. Behind the soft question, "Why didn't you go to university?" came the reply, "We had no money, and I always wanted to build cars since I was young." Though he lived a harsh life as a factory worker, the father smiles, knowing that the parts he made are now running across the entire world. From this, the wanderer attains a profound awakening. The expectations and sighs his parents imposed were not chains to bind him, but their own wounded, desperate agape, trying to protect their child from inheriting the bitter winter of life they had endured. Compassion finally elevates man from an institutional slave to an authentic master. Just as Nelson Mandela proclaimed his sovereignty to rule his own fate within the darkness of a narrow, solitary cell, the wanderer begins to sanctify the suffering of life before him. The entrance exam pamphlets and workbooks resting on his desk are no longer a cold enclosure that keeps him imprisoned. Choosing a book that looks interesting and reading it freely, that too is studying. As the social philosopher Eric Hoffer once discerned, immersion in others' gaze is ultimately nothing but a means of escaping one's authentic self. The wanderer now ends his flight to satisfy others and resolves to confront his own existential reality face to face. Looking at the college guidebook chosen by his mother, he smiles as he discovers the harmonious intersection where others' expectations and his own desires meet. Like Marcus Aurelius quietly whispering to himself every single morning, fortifying the inner citadel of his mind, the wanderer now departs from the unilateral orbit of others' expectations and steps upon a new stone path created by his own hand. Even amidst the exhaustion where the teacher's words grow faint, a deep expectation to begin true study for myself once exams are over burns like a sacred flame within his inner landscape. Nietzsche's Amor Fati flows through his fingertips as he quietly holds his pen beneath the desk lamp burning through the night, willing to love this fate, even if this life were to recur infinitely. Not for anyone else, not for any other purpose, but solely for yourself. The final word of the wise one is inscribed like a tattoo upon his soul, proving that the world was originally an infinite playground to paint one's own meaning. Upon his radiant back, quietly walking through the present moment, the magnificent victory of the existential sovereign who overcame meaninglessness is declared.